Welcome to the quest for the Green Bull, the Rise of R'luh Azath. This is a bittersweet show for me as I was on the losing end of our last game of the week. But our guest, remember, the Titans here made the better moves and looks to have the waiver pickup of the season in Justin Fields. Not to mention that win was an absolute must if our defending champions are going to get a chance to defend their title as they look to make the Green Bowl for the third straight season. And you see the trophy behind, remember, the Titans there. What's going on? I know you're flying high, especially since you also won, which I'll show, and you'll be getting this soon, the golden pen that you get to hold on to this for the rest of the year, put it next to your trophy as well. And of course, you might be keeping that trophy for another year too. We don't know yet. So
That's the plan. That's the plan, is to have both of them throughout the off season, but we'll see how it ends up. I definitely have put myself in a situation where I kind of must wins for the rest of the year. I did the same thing last year. So, it's just that momentum going into the playoffs, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And you obviously like the Bears too. So after I'm sure you've seen what happened last year, maybe early this year. Did you expect Justin Fields to be unlocked and essentially become Lamar Jackson part two?
Like early in the season, I had hopes that like he would do this sort of thing. But after those first couple of weeks, I just thought, okay, they're not unlocking him this season and it's just not going to happen and maybe not ever. And I didn't give up fully, but it was sort of like, it's just not going to be what we wanted it to be. And then just boom, suddenly, it's really crazy. They just started calling like runs for him. It's what he's good at. And that unlocks the chance to use the arm that he has, because he is really accurate and good. But yeah, I think he's still learning to read defenses. But when you have that running threat, guys will be open, and they finally are using it. I was disappointed in the coaching staff for the first couple of weeks too. And so it's been really nice to see that they're catering the offense to him. And boy, having him on my fantasy team on top of just enjoying watching the Bears is again a refreshing experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of had Joe Burrow last year too. I feel like you now found the next quarterback. Like that seems to be your MO recently.
I was thinking the exact same thing, honestly, when the first couple weeks that he's worked out, I've been like, wow, did I really hit gold two seasons in a row for the stretch run here?
It's the way to do it. That's how you got to get it done. Another guy who's been great for you is you drafted him in the first round, Saquon Barkley, of course, and injury concerns obviously made him drop to you at number 10, but he's been one of the better first round picks, especially when you see, Jonathan Taylor and how rough he's had it. But he stepped up obviously this last week too against Houston. But how big has he been? You talked about the rough start, 1-4 start. I feel like as he's really started to come along, you've started doing better as well.
Yeah, and I remember during the draft, I had hoped to get him with my second round pick, and then there was just a run on running backs, and he was my guy, and so I just said, you know what, this is earlier than I wanted to take him, but let's just do it, and definitely glad I did. I think I could have gone another direction with like Tyreek Hill, which would have worked out pretty dang well itself. But I'm still very happy to have Saquon, and that running back position is just always so hard to get guys who are there throughout the season and performing well. And so to have him be healthy and performing like the star that he is has been really nice. And again, like similar to Fields, he's just fun to watch, right? So if I'm watching a game on Sunday, like he's just such an exciting player to watch play. So
yeah, fun to root for. And that's in fantasy, it makes it extra good when you're rooting for someone on your team. And of course, 4 out of 5 you've won now, so you're back to 500. Still alive for a division title. Did you expect this after week 5?
Absolutely not. Again, knowing what happened last year, I was still hopeful I could find a way to make the playoffs maybe if I went on a run, and I liked my team, and so I was still hopeful, but certainly given that start, didn't expect to be a game out. I've gotten lucky with some of the results in other games to get to this point. I was looking today at the standings, though. I do have the most points against, so I think I gotta toughen up my team's defense. We're leaking like a sieve so far this year. That's really been my problem. But no, I certainly didn't expect to be still in contention for a division title. And boy, would it be nice to have that and just not have to rely with so many teams fighting for these wild card spots. I feel like the tiebreakers with the head to heads are going to be crazy by the end of the season. So I would really love to get a division title and not have to worry about those.
Yeah, that's the kind of the gift of the division title. You don't have to worry about those tiebreakers because it becomes a mess. Yeah, especially with the percentage.
I remember last year, like I think even going into the last week, I didn't know what was going to happen, either winning or losing, because there were so many potential ties that would change given who else won and lost. So it would be very nice to go into that last week without worrying about that. But that's, partly in my hands. I just gotta, if I win out, that means I'll beat all my division foes, and that would help quite a bit in that race.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would definitely help in that race, especially the multiple scoregasms haven't looked as stout recently. So who knows? You never know. You never know what's going to happen. So I do have to ask, how's it been being the Green Bowl champion all year?
It's so nice having that trophy, and I have it next to the TV where I most often watch football, and so I get to just smile at it while I enjoy my fantasy team's performances. It felt good to win. I love fantasy football, and I'm in a few leagues, and this was only my second title ever, so it was very nice to have and it's fun to have the trophy and everything. So it feels very good.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously it was a shock to all of us that you didn't completely defeat the shadows, and now we're all prisoners on Jupiter's moons. But it's still great to be the champ, right?
I should have done better.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens this year. It seems to be getting a little intense.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it was tough to be in the polar caps last week, but I found my way out.
Yeah, you did. Well, for this week, for our special segment, I wanted to do some rankings of our fantasy trades with our trade deadline passing Friday, November 18th. We're filming this a little before that, so not all the trades will be on this list, including one you just made. I saw.
Yes, earlier today.
It's not officially processed yet, but that's your second one. So there's that. But we have three that I wanted to go and rank with you. So let's get to ranking the madness. Okay, so I remember you once saying how you watched Westworld back when we worked at UNG together. So I wanted to use some Westworld quotes here for you to rank these trades.
I love it.
So and you might know these quotes, and feel free to paraphrase them as we go through this as well, because they are some of them are a little longer. But the first quote, which will be, if you think the team is gonna have the best result or already has the best result for the trade, winning doesn't mean anything unless someone else loses. That was the Man in Black / William from the pilot and from season 4. The next one is if you think it's gonna be the worst result for the team or it's already bad. This one is, it's a difficult thing realizing your entire life is some kind of hideous fiction. That's episode 9. That's Maeve that said that. And then the next one is wait and see. We don't know yet. And that's the right information at the right time is deadlier than any weapon. And that's from Martin Connells. That was also the copy of Dolores Abernathy from season 3. If you remember that insane storyline.
Love that. Love that.
So first I'm going to go through the trades real quick, and then we can go back and assign our quotes to them to see what's up. So the first trade happened, I believe, October 28th. It might have been the first trade altogether. Uncle Justy gave top free agent wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., who actually still isn't signed to a team, but may sign before the fantasy playoffs, to Green Acres for quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Of course, just to go over a couple things here, we know Beckham has no stats yet, but Tagovailoa has kind of come on the last couple of games after he came back from his concussion. 3 touchdowns each game, no interceptions, and he's averaged over 300 yards. And if you remember in week 2 on Green Acres bench, he had like over 50 points. So he has that kind of beast potential.
Yeah.
So there's that trade. The second trade is one with my Darkridge Dreamers and the Clash at Demon Head. One of the rare interdivisional trades, too. I was actually trying to work out a lot of trades, and I wanted to do something. So I was actually surprised that the one was the team in my division. But I sent running backs Antonio Gibson and Latavius Murray for running back DeAndre Swift. I also gave up in the deal because I needed to sweeten the pot, I guess. It was my 8th round pick for next year for the 12th round pick of a Clash at Demon Head. And obviously Swift's been injured, but you being a Bears fan know him in the division. Even though he's been slowly coming back and Jamal Williams has been vulturing things, he does have that potential. We've seen it before, and he did it early when he was healthy. So that's my hope, especially with the matchups in week 16 and 17. So I'm thinking playoffs, possibilities.
Yeah. Well, and you built yourself a bit of a buffer there to be able to have a player who's going to show up at the end of the season and not worry about a couple games here and there mid-season.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for. He also catches the ball out of the backfield, which is, so to me, it was like, it could be an upgrade from Gibson in that he's been up and down. And even though he's been doing well lately, he's had a touchdown, I think, in 3 of his last 4 games each game. He only has 42 carries combined in that stretch, which is also low. And with the way Detroit, even though they're not that great, their defense isn't that great, so they tend to get a lot of garbage time points. So that was kind of my thought.
Absolutely.
Washington's defense is a little better, so they actually have low scoring games, to be honest.
Yep.
But for the Clash at Demon Head, they do get Gibson, who also has 15 catches for 17 targets on 101 yards in the last 4 games too. So getting a lot of throws from Heineke. And Latavius Murray is on Denver, and he's gets a lot of goal line, but he does have Chase Edmonds and Melvin Gordon.
A lot of competition.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that trade. And obviously it was the 2-for-1 with the draft pick. The third trade, of course, involved you. This was your other trade earlier. Leonard Fournette and Rondale Moore, the wide receiver, Rondale Moore, to Green Acres for T. Higgins, the wide receiver from the Bengals. So far, Fournette's played in 2 games for Green Acres since the trade, 76 yards rushing, 42 yards receiving, only 1 touchdown. He got dinged up a little bit, but I guess he's going to be okay. Moore seems to be picking up steam. I've seen a lot of articles about possibly buying low on him and things like that if he wasn't traded yet. 266 yards and a touchdown in the 3 weeks since you traded him. But again, he seems to be picking up speed, especially with Ertz going down. He might get some more targets. And you got T. Higgins, though. Chase is injured, so he's technically the top receiver for Cincinnati. Burrow's going to get him the ball. Strangely enough, he actually has struggled with yards without Chase. I guess he's going up against the top corner, whatever, but Chase will be back. He still has 109 yards and a touchdown the last couple games with the bye last week. But, I'm guessing you wanted that potential. So let's go over these now and rank them. So let's start with the first trade. If you remember, Uncle Justy, which Westworld quote for him in the Beckham Jr. versus Tagovailoa trade?
It's a tough one, but given how good Tua has been this year and just still the uncertainty surrounding OBJ, and listen, I love OBJ and his talent, but to not even know what team he's going to be on, let alone what kind of role he could have on that team, I think I got to say, winning doesn't mean anything unless someone else loses. And I think getting all these weeks of Tua is winning quite strongly, and having to use a roster spot meanwhile on OBJ. Again, I love that the upside there, but it's a tough roster spot to hold this long for a guy who's not even on a team yet.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, I tried to trade for Tagovailoa recently. I was giving up draft picks. I was trying to give Cordero Patterson all kinds of stuff. Uncle Justy was not ready to think about next year yet, so he told me no. So I agree that Tagovailoa is kind of an intriguing guy. He does have some rough matchups when you look at the matchups, but he might be matchup proof with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Gesicki. He's got a lot of weapons, and then the running backs. They kind of use that San Francisco system, you know, at Mostert and Wilson. They're a dangerous offense for sure. But you talked about OBJ too. So how would you rate it for Green Acres? You know, if he comes back and Green Acres makes the playoffs, it could be a boost for him. So
I think, yeah, for Green Acres, it's probably a wait and see type of situation. You know, the right information at the right time is deadlier than any weapon.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Man, can you imagine if he comes back and does well? I could see that happening to Green Acres. He's got one of those decent teams where he could go on a run. You know, you've seen it before. So
inject a little OBJ into the team, and who knows what can happen.
Especially which team he goes to. You know, I heard that he wanted to go to Buffalo. That would be ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that offense. What that would be like.
Yeah, he would just play Diggs and OBJ, both of them. Like, you know, it probably hurt maybe Gabe Davis a little bit, but I don't know. Like I just think they throw the ball so much.
Yeah.
So now let's move on to my trade. This one might be a little difficult because you know, I kind of took a chance there. But you know, obviously, when you're looking at the clash at Demon Head, they got Antonio Gibson, Latavius Murray, and an 8th round pick for a 12th round pick next year. So what would you say their trade haul was here?
You know, I think I'm going to go back to wait and see with the right information at the right time is deadlier than any weapon, because that pick to me is a really key part of that. I think I don't love Gibson. You know, clearly the Commanders love that rookie Robinson. They gave him like 20 some carries the other night, which was crazy. I mean, Gibson is very talented, but they just seem not to love him. And I really am not a fan of Murray. But moving up 4 rounds in next year's draft, that's like, I mean, whatever happens this season, that's like a little boost going into next season, which is really nice. But who knows how valuable that'll be, because you still got to make the right pick, right?
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
I think that's sort of a wait and see until next year's draft.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, because I definitely took a chance on this one, because I was like, Gibson could totally continue to go off, and you know, Robinson's doing well, but you know how fickle fantasy is. There was one week where for some reason Robinson didn't get the bulk of things. So even though he's been getting 20 carries most games, so it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, who do I trade? Who's there? And Murray too, like Gordon can fumble it 6 times, and then Murray's the lead guy. So you know, and then I'm getting rid of 2 running backs. So I'm like, if I get injuries, they could hurt my depth.
Yeah, you hurt that depth.
Yeah, and then the pick, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm in it to win it, you know, like, you know, I want it Swift.
Absolutely.
So I mean, how would you rate it for me? Because you know, I get Swift out of it. I did give up what I gave up.
I think, I mean, for you, it goes back to winning doesn't mean anything unless someone else loses, right? And you're in it, like you said, you're in it to win it, and you got a guy who I think has more upside. I mean, coming into the year, Swift was like a top 6, 7, 8-ish running back somewhere in there, depending on how much you liked him. And their offense has been super explosive and fun to watch, and he's just been banged up. So it's all about if he's healthy. But I think absolutely going for the win and trying to make sure your opponents lose is the way to go. And you went for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that comes true. I hope Swift does something for me. You know, even if I lose, if he does something good, I'll feel good about it. You know, like I gave it my all, kind of a deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now let's go to that last trade we talked about. We'll start with Green Acres in the trade where he got Moore and Fournette. How do you think he came out in that deal?
You know, I think that's a tough one. Moore has been really good the past few weeks. Lenny has had some positive moments, but I think the rookie Rachaad White has looked better than him at times. And I worried. Part of the reason I wanted to get rid of Moore was worry about when Hollywood Brown comes back, which sounds like it could be happening. But with Ertz out, But with Ertz out, like you mentioned, I think that might change that calculation. And so I think getting those two. Winning doesn't mean anything unless someone else loses. And I think that was a really good, in the end, I think he got a couple really good pieces. And even if Moore goes down in value after Hollywood returns, he's gotten a few good weeks out of him. And so it's like, if that carries you through the season and gets you a couple wins, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's in that tiebreaker battle too, so he needs
Yep.
that, you know. So not what about you in that trade? You liking Higgins so far?
He's been okay. Like you said, he hasn't done anything special. I was hoping without Chase he would really step into the role, but they also did have a bye week. I think I'm seeing it as the right information at the right time is deadlier than any weapon. You know,
Yeah.
I'm still hopeful that that offense is going to explode a bit, and when Chase is back drawing double teams, Higgins is going to be the beneficiary. You know, that touchdown catch he caught at the end of the game against the Browns was sort of garbage time and meaningless, but it just reminded me like, oh, he's so good. He has so
Yeah.
much talent. So I'm still hopeful that he can come up big, but gonna have to wait and see whether that trade was the right one for me to make.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that, especially with the bye. It kind of throws a wrench because you've only seen a
Yeah.
couple of weeks, and sometimes guys have to get used to their new role. When they're taking over, and when Chase
Yep.
comes back, then he's going to go into his usual role, and maybe he does better. I always say that too. Like I got, the Charge. I got Williams on the Chargers, and even Hollywood Brown. I was upset he got injured before Hopkins came back because in my mind, when they're the number two, they're so talented that the number two cornerback on the other team is going to have a hard time covering them.
Yep.
So it actually
Absolutely.
boosts them. Like they're not really the top number one, but when they're number two, they're really good. So, maybe you get that with Higgins and that. You never know. So,
Totally agree.
yeah. And of course, you made the new trade. I didn't include it in here, but are you excited about Pittman?
I am. You know, it's so like I'm giving away Singletary and Moore, who are both just on my bench, and Moore has been frustrating this year. I thought he was in for a big season, but he just hasn't done it. So they're both on my bench and not starting. And I think with Matt Ryan back in Indianapolis, I'm hoping Pittman can return to what he was last season. And I have enough good starting receivers right now that it's sort of just taking a shot on the upside of that. And if he becomes a top 10 guy, then that'll really boost my chances. But if it doesn't work out, I didn't give away anybody I planned on starting anyway. So
Yeah,
fingers crossed that I see the upside of that one.
that's a good point. I think the best trades are the ones where you're not going to start them, or it's going to be a tough question if you start them.
Yep.
Then they become tradable, at
Yep.
that point. And I was kind of with that with my trade as well. It's like maybe I'd use Murray in an emergency or a bye week. Gibson, I probably was going to start Robinson over him every time, regardless. So, it's like he was
Yep.
just kind of there as a handcuff, but if I could get Swift out of the deal, I was like, hey, I mean, I want someone who's going to help me win a championship, and I think you're the same
Absolutely.
way. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think another thing we
go home.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I think another thing we actually learned too, just calling it out, is that no one lost these. We did very good in our trades in our league. Huh? There's a couple wait and sees, which is great, and most people won, and that's what you want. What you really want is for both teams to win the trade, right? Like that's
like you never want a trade where it's just like one person just absolutely gets the worst luck and it's a terrible deal, because then they won't want to trade in the future, and trading's fun and it should benefit both teams. And so it's nice to see that I think all of these deals had their benefits for both sides for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it like by this episode, there might be more trades. We don't know. The trade deadline's coming up. It goes all the way to the on this. It's already done, but it ended at midnight, or actually, it's technically 11 p.m. Central on Friday. It ended. So trades could go all the way up to that last minute. A lot of people forget that, but it could process well after the fact as long as it's made then. So we'll see if there's more trades. I don't know when this is out. I might add it in the comments of this video if there's more, and I'll give some Westworld quotes for those too.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Well, there you have. Thank you for coming and rubbing your win over my Dreamers in my face. That's so good.
The second time I've had to do it after the championship last year, I'm beginning to feel a little guilty. But we'll see if there's another matchup in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it could be coming up. You could be on another game of the week against somebody else, week 13 and 14, our flex weeks, with how close you are. Might be.
Yeah, I could see that Scoregasms game being a game.
I circled it.
We'll see what happens these next couple weeks.
Absolutely. Well, good luck on your title defense. With your record, like I said, you might be in another game of the week, and hopefully you're enjoying our wild theme story so far with the Dream Priests.
Absolutely,
and our journalist friend Mario Cosi. He's in some deep trouble, I think.
Certainly more trouble than I've ever gotten into during work, but
absolutely. Well, defending champion, remember the Titans, everyone. That's the content for the week. Hope you enjoyed it. New episodes will be out Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday per the usual this next week. Until next time, salut, and check out the upcoming Game of the Week schedule before you go.